Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be going over some helpful tips and tricks of things that I learned while organizing my kitchen. So I was noticing over break that my kitchen was getting a little cluttered as I was gaining new appliances, but not really getting rid of any old ones. What I did is I went ahead and I was looking on YouTube and I found some inspiration from a YouTuber named Madison Gray. She was talking about minimizing her life and how in her kitchen she only has like one set of different kinds of appliances, etc. And I thought that would be really cool to try out. What I did is I went ahead and I looked up ideas online of how to minimize your kitchen, and I found some helpful tips and tricks that I want to share with you. Before I even got started with applying these tips and tricks, first thing I had to do was kind of clean my kitchen out. I first started by going through my pan drawer and clean some of that stuff out, and then I started to tackle another drawer, but before I knew it, my whole kitchen was just kind of a disaster. I wanted to tackle one spot at a time, but I ended up needing to just tackle the whole thing at once. Because it was the middle of the week when I had started this, I had to wait till the weekend because it actually ended up taking me a full 6 hours to complete this task. I would recommend, if you have the stamina, if you like to organize, if it's fun for you, go for it. Wait till you have a full day to do it and do it, but if you're someone who burns out a little more easily, maybe take sections at a time. Before I even started implementing any of the tips and tricks, I had to get a clean canvas. So what I did is I took everything off the counters, everything out of the cabinets, the drawers, all of that, and I put it in the other room so I could have a clean canvas. I wiped down the counters, I wiped down the shelves inside because all those little crumbs that build up. I just wanted to feel like I was starting fresh and on a win, so I didn't feel like I finished the whole kitchen and then it was still like dirty and I'd have to go back and clean it. Once you have a clean canvas, then you can start with being creative and getting down to business. The first step for me was to eliminate things. So I eliminated anything that I had like duplicates of. One of the things I eliminated duplicates was for muffin mitts. So I think for me, I noticed that I only ever need 2 at a time. I like to have 2, so if I'm taking something out of the oven, I have it from both sides. But really, other than that, I don't need any more. So what I ended up getting rid of was one of my muffin mitts that I had that was pretty worn out and old. I also noticed that with knives. So we got this set of knives for our wedding gift, and then we got this set of knives in like a big block from Blake's grandparents for a gift as well. And so the big thing is I would always go for these knives, and then if they weren't sharp enough, then I would go for these knives. And then I'd end up just dirtying a lot of knives and barely using any of these. What we did is we went through and we donated a couple of these knives to my siblings, and that way I can be more encouraged to use these higher quality knives and declutter some of our drawers. In terms of spatulas, I had 2 spatulas, both did the same job. I only ever need 1, so I was able to get rid of one of these. I also had 2 different pitchers for pouring water. This was a cute one I bought more recently, and so I gave the one my mom let us have back to her. We were very kindly gifted with some extra bowls from one of Blake's friends who was getting rid of some of their kitchen stuff, but then I noticed we'd have 2 of the exact same size in a couple of different bowls. So these are also something I was able to eliminate duplicates of. In terms of cutting boards, I do like to have a couple different cutting boards, but I don't need to have 4 or 5. I have one tiny one, like a medium one and a large one, and that's about all I need. So we were able to get rid of a couple cutting boards. I noticed that I had 2 strainers, one of which I had used probably 3 times since we had bought it a year and a half ago, and then this one that I use all the time, and so I was able to donate one of those. And then lastly, we have this blender attachment, and when we bought another blender attachment thing because it came with more cups, they sent us another one of these as well as another lid. We only need one of these, we only need 2 cups, we only need 2 lids. Since we had 3, we were able to give some of these to Blake's family to use on theirs. And then lastly, I collect some of these kombucha bottles all the time thinking that I'm going to use them as vases, but then I end up having so many. And so what I did is I went ahead and got rid of all of my bottles except for 3 in case I want to have those set of 3 vases to use. And I also always collect any type of jar that we get food in that's glass, because I think, well, if I made orange juice or I needed a little container for a salad dressing. It'd be nice to have, but I ended up having a crazy collection of them. So I had to kind of cut that in half to just things that I think I would use, even though I probably still won't use a lot of them. It's a good first step in the right direction. My next thing is to trash trashed things. I like to use these reusable Ziplocs, but I actually did get some on Amazon that didn't close very well. And so it was always such like a frustration trying to get them to close. And so I thought, you know what? Time to throw those out. They're not working for me. They're not doing their job. And so I was able to throw those out as well. And so as I was going through my kitchen, I noticed a lot of food that was expired or stale. And so with cans, I had probably like 10 cans that we had that were expired. And I had like different things in our food cabinet, open bags of tortilla chips, things like that were stale, and so they were ready to be thrown out. So that was an easy thing to throw out, and also helped me be mindful of checking my pantry before I go out and buy new things, because I have a lot of stuff, and if I don't use it, it just ends up going bad. We ended up having a lot of dish towels, and a lot of them are super stained. I think we learned once being married that white dish towels aren't really for us because we are just too messy. And so getting rid of those has helped us open up our towel drawer and more easily be able to get new towels out and towels that we enjoy and that look nice. I would say the exciting thing about trashing trash things too is that it opens up opportunities to get things that you genuinely love and to replace it with something that you like more. I don't think that you should just replace everything you get rid of, but replacing those special things that really do have a big purpose in your life that you use daily. It's always nice to be able to get an opportunity to buy a new thing of that you really enjoy. Next on my list was to combine duplicates of things. So before I got rid of duplicates of things, but there's some things that I don't want to get rid of because I'm going to use them, but I want to combine them. So for example, I had a lot of different spice containers that were maybe like half used. And so I'd have 2 of these full of basil just sitting in my pantry taking up space when I could have combined them into one and just had one and recycled the other. And so what I was able to do was I was able to use these cute little jars that I got a while back, put these nice little labels on them, and then go ahead and combine a lot of duplicates of spices into them. What I'd recommend too for myself moving forward, as well as any of you who are interested, is buying your spices in bulk. So we have a store called Winco, and they sell like spices in just bins, and you can pour them into bags and get however much you want. And so I think for me, what I want to do going forward is use that to help me get refills for spices that I'm running low on, so I don't end up with a ton of extra bottles of them. The last main thing that I noticed that I had to combine duplicates of was baking stuff. So like bags of flour, bags of powdered sugar, things like that. And so I'd end up thinking I'm out of powdered sugar, going and buying more powdered sugar, and then ending up with 2 bags of powdered sugar. So what I was able to do was a lot of them were half full bags, so I could pour it in one into the other and then end up just having 1 bag of powdered sugar in my pantry instead of 2 half full ones. Of course, it doesn't always work out that you have 2 half amounts of something. Sometimes maybe you have 1 full bag and 1 half bag, and that's just how it goes. But it is cool to see as you go through your kitchen to be more mindful of what you have extras of and maybe dedicate a shelf to that, so that before you go to the grocery store every time, you have one particular spot you look for any duplicates of things. So when it comes to minimizing, it can be hard at first, and so what I like to do is I like to be easy on myself. I like to challenge myself a little bit, but not push myself too far, because I don't want to get rid of something that I may regret, but then down the road I'll come back and reassess. And so maybe in the summer I'll come back and look back through all my kitchen stuff and see what is something I haven't used since I last went through and organized, and maybe I'll feel more comfortable about getting rid of that. The reason I love to minimize is because then it helps me to get to see the things that I actually want to use and use those things more often. So now you are done with minimizing. You've gone through, you've gotten rid of trashed things, you've combined duplicates of things, and you've donated duplicates of things. But now it's time to organize. And for me, this was one of the more fun parts, as I love to be creative about where I'm going to put things within my kitchen. A good place to start is with your shelves. And so I noticed that things I use more often, I want to have close to me where I don't have to get on a step ladder. I also noticed things that I cook with regularly, I want to have right next to the stove. So right behind me you can see I have all the spices out, and they used to live inside of this pantry. This just opens up more opportunities for me to easily grab things and be more motivated to cook, as it removes a barrier for me. Other things are like having in this drawer, I have like my olive oil, my flour, my rice, all sorts of vinegars, and stuff, so that it's really easy for me to just grab what I need versus go to the other side of the kitchen to get the olive oil and then up on the top shelf to get the rice. All of that, I try to put the most highly trafficked cooking stuff right next to the oven. I also tried to put things that I would use less often on high shelves. And so that would be like my Dutch oven I don't use as often, or my Instapot. It would be like my baking stuff, because I actually don't bake a whole lot. I tend to cook more, and so I put like my flour, my sugar, chocolate chips, all that on top shelves, as well as my extra cans and things like that. What I was mindful of, however, was not putting things that were too heavy on the highest shelves. Things that I would use more often, I tried to put maybe on lower shelves where it's still a little bit more to get to them because maybe I don't use them as often, but it's less challenging and dangerous maybe for me to get them out. One example of this would be cast iron pans I have. Those are extremely heavy and quite an effort to get to when you put them on a high shelf. So I ended up putting them kind of right down here below me so I can easily pull them out. There were also some things that I was not ready to part with yet, but I didn't really use ever, to be honest. One thing was like a cake stand from our wedding. And so with those type of things that you're just not ready to part with, but you also know you're probably not going to use it for another year, I would put those in really hard to reach corners. And so what I did is I put like a huge cake stand in a back corner where I know, okay, I've got it still, it's safe, but it's not going to be interfering with clutter in my kitchen, etc. And then one thing I did as well to encourage myself to use things that I maybe don't use as much or I forget about was I tried to put them in plain sight. So one thing is this apron that Blake got me last year for Christmas, and it still had the tag on it. It was shoved in a corner somewhere. I didn't even really remember I had it. And so now I have it hooked right next to the fridge so I can try to remember when I'm cooking to put the apron on and get some good use out of it. And then last but not least, this wouldn't be called Homemaking Made Cuter if I didn't sew something that would make you smile. And so I think that you should include things that will make you smile in your kitchen. And so whether for me that's having this bright yellow apron out, or these sweet baskets my mom gave me, or the silly camping muffin mitt that Blake's mom gave me, just putting things out that bring me joy and maybe don't necessarily need to be out, but just brighten up the place and help it feel a little more homey and cheery. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned some tips and tricks and are motivated to go ahead and kind of declutter your kitchen, organize it to be more efficient, effective for you. If you have any tips and tricks for me, please comment them below, and have a great day.